Marketing for the now, marketing for the now, marketing for the now, marketing for the now. 10 minutes, 12 remarkable guests for 2 hours answering a singular important question.
Are you ready, Gary?
What do you think?
Gary. It's time
How
to
are
wrap
you?
up the year. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. How have you been?
Good. So we've got another star-studded cast here. We're going to have one question to wrap things up, which is, what are your biggest challenges and victories of 2021? And we're going to kick off with George Felix. He's the CMO of Tinder, and he joined just about 8 months ago. And Gary, here's a little story that you may not know about George. In kindergarten, he crushed his grade school talent show with his friends, lip syncing "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" by Tears and
Such
Fears.
a good song.
And apparently it's the pleather jacket and the plastic guitar that was just huge. So just wanted to kind of share that before we kick things off. Welcome, George.
Wow. Thanks, Andre. Hey, what's up, Gary? Did not realize that was going to make the cut.
Make it?
Good news.
Well, listen, George, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to get right into it. First of all, happy holidays. Great to see you.
Yep.
Know a lot of people are excited in the comments already because Tinder is one of the cultural phenomenons of the last decade. So a lot of fans. You have an iconic CMO career already and you're a youngster. So I think it's really fun to get right to the punchline. What were your biggest challenges and victories? Because I think a lot about the yin and the yang. Like we talk about the black or white, but it's a gray. That's why I'm wearing gray. It's a gray day. Wins, but also losses. How do you think back? How do you recap and create the context? Because obviously you're new at Tinder, so those are going to be different wins and losses than some of our guests that are coming up.
Yeah. When I came in almost 8 months ago, the challenge was really like, Tinder's been this phenomenon, like you said, for about 9 years, but the brand's never really controlled its own narrative, never really known exactly what it wants to be, and the product has essentially been the same for 9 years. So in terms of challenges, it was like, hey, coming in, how do we define our brand North Star, our positioning? Like, what is our brand mission? What do we want it to be? And so I'm excited. I'll say, a victory for us is we've just kind of started to roll that out. But as we look at like what's going on in the world and the role Tinder can play, for us, our mission is to keep the magic of human connection alive. And so, in this world, as technology plays a bigger role in people's lives, it's kind of this weird paradox that people are feeling more isolated than ever. And at our core, what we do at Tinder is we bring people together. And so we think there's a big role to play there. And so I think that's just being able to say that confidently and articulate that in a way that both inspires our employees as well as our members, I think is a big victory for us. And then, I think from a challenge standpoint, we've all been dealing with it, right, the last couple of years, and particularly in our category. And so, I think we've had ups and downs in terms of finding ways that, to help enable people get through this new world and the pandemic that we've been going through, and still bringing people together. And I think there have been times when I think we've hit the mark and we've been able to give people experiences that resonate, and other times where we haven't quite hit it, and we need to kind of pivot. So for us, I think it's just about continuing to experiment and learn and try and listen to our members about what they need.
As you think about 2022, obviously you've got your own business strategies that you can't share everything, but is there anything you can share of ambitions for victories in 2022? Yeah.
I think for, I mentioned it a little bit, like from a product experience standpoint, we haven't, it's been fairly one-dimensional if you think about it. It's the core experience 9 years ago wasn't all that different. You get on, you're swiping within minutes, right? And that's great. And that's always going to be a core part of Tinder. But I think what we want to do is we want to expand and evolve and kind of make Tinder more three-dimensional. And so, one of the things we've just recently launched is called Explore. It's a whole new piece of real estate on on Tinder, and it's a new way to find new connections and meet new people, where you can find a card stack for gamers and binge watchers and foodies, and you can do things by interest. We just did a partnership with Spotify for something called Music Mode, so it's like you can have your anthem going on, like your walk up song, while you browse through a profile. But as we look ahead, we're going to be partnering. You can imagine, we want to bring content onto our platform. We want to create more engaging experiences. How do we bring gaming, more three-dimensional experiences into what we do best, which is connect people and bring people together.
How much of a challenge is it when you've got this? I mean, the responses in the comments on YouTube and LinkedIn, I see all y'all are quite positive to this concept of elevating the connection point. Is it challenging when a brand is known for casual dating, hooking up, brands become what they become? We've seen refurbishment of brands in society many times. We're now getting to the place where digital brands are going to start, because they're all so young. We're going to go through these next 20 years, we're going to see the Tinders and the Facebook is now Meta, and can MySpace ever get rebooted like a fashion brand, right? You're going to see these things. You came in with a lot of victories on your resume. You come into the challenge of this job. Tell everybody who's listening how hard it is to change the perception of something once it's been accepted as something. Because it seems to me, and obviously we work together in the Vayner world, so I've got a little insight into this, but even what you're saying here publicly, it's obvious to everybody Tinder's about to widen itself out based on what George is saying. How hard is it to widen yourself? Amazon going from just selling books to everything, that took a real process that a lot of people don't remember. I remember the blog post saying, stick to books. Yeah. I lived it. Stick to wine guy. Why are you talking about business and technology? How hard is it?
I mean, it's definitely not something that happens, over, the course of a couple months, right? It's going to be something we have to have a concerted effort on. And a big part of what we need to do, we don't have an awareness problem, right? Everyone knows Tinder, and we're synonymous with our category. For us, it's, we want to be known for, more, and we want to change the way people think about Tinder. So we make the largest investment in safety and trust and products that make people feel safe when they're using our product. Do we get credit for that? Probably not. We need to do a better job of changing the perception and telling more of those stories. The way that people use our product, yes, it can be anything from a fleeting thing, a hookup, all the way through a long-lasting romance, through friendships. And we're here for that. And frankly, that's being dictated by Gen Z, right? They're using
it's also dictated by the consumer. I love when people are I had a convo with somebody about a different app once, and I was like, well, people use Instagram DM for casual dating, and that wasn't the early purpose of, humans are going to do human shit regardless of what apps or technology tries to do.
Totally. And I spend a couple hours a week talking to college students, just learning about their lives. They didn't use the word dating, it's all about how they want to use the platform. And so we need to adapt to that, and we need to be there for all of those scenarios that they want to. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that is going to take time, right? It's going to take people people are going to have to realize, oh, there's something new at Tinder. There's more to Tinder than I thought. And we know that we're in it for the long haul, and that's going to take, not months, but probably, over the course of years, we're going to continue to evolve, and we're going to have to prove it through the product experience that we can provide.
Talk now elevated. You have a lot of CMO friends, so let's talk about the industry less than Tinder. What do you think are the biggest opportunities for victories for brands in general in 2022 from an innovation place? One thing I've always liked from watching you afar, now I'm getting a chance to see it up close a little bit more, is consumer common sense is what I would call it. I think you've got that in your arsenal, which is why you've had success. If you're talking to 500 CMOs right now, and you're making a blanket statement, because some are there, some haven't even started, give me George's one or two things that all of us could get a lot more upside in building our brands if we lean into X.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I've always been a pretty simple person, trying to keep it basic. like, to me, it is really listening to your consumers, trying to get in there and understand what they're doing, and what they're telling us right now is like they want, like you said, they don't want to be told how to do something, or they don't want to be put into like a box, say this is the only way to do it. They want to be able to come to an experience and really define it and shape it and be able to change the way they want to use it. And maybe that's using Tinder in one way on one day and then coming back 3 days later and using it in a different way. And so for me, it's, and working with our product team, how do we make a product that is flexible enough, fluid enough, where, people can use and experience it in different ways and really dictate that and not be forced into kind of like just what we think we want them to do in terms of using the product.
What about tactically? Do you see media spend or creative, like, just because I know so many marketers watch this, any thoughts on the evolution of media and creative spends and where they go, distribution or types of creative?
Oh, I mean, I think just like in terms of like, I think the days of like the bigger, like huge spends on production and big swings and doing like the big, big the big anthemic TVC and like the big, you're going to have your 2 campaigns a year. I think those days are done. I'm definitely like adapting, learning more, just in some of the shifts I've made from brands over the years, from, 9-10 years ago on Old Spice, the way we thought about things,
sure,
which was innovative at the time.
Yep.
Now thinking through, it's much more quicker hitting content. How many pieces of content can you create quickly? We've been talking a lot about, when you're doing, when you're making a big campaign these days, it's more about like, what are all the different places it can go and
George,
travel.
before I let you go in 2 minutes, so many questions of, would Tinder ever allow us to meet each other on the metaverse? I think obviously this has been the year of the NFT. I've been at the center of it. I've been less about the VR metaverse because I think it's a little further away than people realize. But any thoughts of like, do you see a day and age where people are having dates at a bar in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, for sure, like, in the world of Tinder, we're still, the majority of people are about in real life connections at some point. But, we have to continue to look to see where people want to go. And if that's where the world's headed, then Tinder's going to be looking into it. And so I can't say we have, concrete plans for the metaverse right now, but we're certainly monitoring it and checking it out. And we want to be however people want to meet and however people want to connect going to the future, you can expect Tinder to be there.
Any parting thoughts of inspiration for all the youngsters that want to see a lot of people wanting to have your job one day? What is the 15 to 25-year-old or the 33-year-old that wants to get out of finance or legal or something and aspire to be a CMO one day? Any words of wisdom as we get out of here?
I would say just get like being comfortable, being uncomfortable for me is a big one. So like take swings, take chances, keep learning new things. And that's been kind of how I've tried to make the decisions I've made along the way in my career.
Continued success, my friend. Happy holidays. Thank you for being on.
You too, Gary. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, George. And thanks, Gary. Now we're going to have a little throwback Thursday moment. Dustin is going to take us back to July 4th.
Good afternoon. In less than a week, we hope to fire up our grills and launch one of the biggest 4th of July celebrations in the history of the United States. The United States. Those words have new meaning for us all today. And whether you drive a pickup or a hybrid, you live in the heartland or on the coast, or whether you pronounce it America or Murica, we're all Americans. Seldom on the same page, but reading from the same book. On holidays, anyway. Perhaps it's fate that this 4th of July, we gotta once again come together to lend a hand to those less fortunate whose fate still lies in the balance. We're fighting for freedom for all, not from alien invaders. From separation, from being cooped up while baking bread and ignoring basic hygiene. The time has come for us to get fresh, gather the crew, and eat veggie and meat burgers till we sweat. And then let's work together towards a future where everyone can come to the party. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will fill the sky with so much light and freedom, this thing will rue the day it ever messed with us. Together, we celebrate our Independence Day. Go forth, America.
Hooah! Next up, we welcome Rob Lenois, the beloved Chief Creative Officer of VaynerMedia.
Hello, everyone.
And the Bill Pullman.
Guy.
Welcome, Bill.
Awesome. So great to see that piece again, and so great to see you again, Bill. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Very good. Good that we could circle back at the end of the year. That was the middle of the year when we spent so much time together.
That was the goal. That was the goal. Really, really fired up to have you join us for this conversation. I have to share with you that folks around the agency are calling us the Great Hollywood Madison Avenue Bromance. So I just thought I'd kick it off with that. A little bit of background on the show, Bill. This is really a show. It tells it like it is. And I know from, our conversations first and foremost, but also from your career that you're one hell of a straight shooter. So hopefully in our chat today, we got about 10 minutes with each other. We can inspire our listeners to really do some cool shit. Right now, what I'm seeing and what all marketers are frankly seeing is we're all struggling to be relevant, to really connect and engage with audiences in real ways. And this is something that I've started to call, it's probably nothing new, but it's how I like to frame it, as having real creative conviction. When we did this piece during COVID, it was so important to get this piece right, or it would have been a disaster. And I personally have learned so much from working with you. So maybe we can kick this off. If you could share with the audience, when you saw this script, and I know you've probably seen a million prior to this script, people that wanted you to, bring back this famous script. What did you see in it that said to you, I can land this? This is something that I can see really connecting with people on and having real impact. Maybe just give us a little peek in your mind as you kind of saw the script for the first time.
Well, do I call you bro or bromance?
You can call me whatever you want, Bill.
Well, I mean, some of it is just I was in the middle of shooting in Canada and a heavy production load when this call came in from my rep saying, there's Budweiser wants to do a campaign using the speech for, a Budweiser commercial.
Yep.
And I said, are you friggin' kidding me?
Here we go.
Terrible. Terrible. Worst idea.
Sacrilege.
Holy cow. We're going to do a commercial and I'm going to get a salary for using this speech that was so important to so many people. And now we're just selling something. And and at this point, let me just look at the text. Oh, God. And then I realized there's somebody back there writing this text that has an idea about how to kind of make fun of yourself and make a little twinkle in the eye about the whole thing, but put it to some purpose. And right now he's selling a beer, but maybe this same person who wrote this with this little idea might. And then I went, nah, I don't have any time to talk to anybody. I can't do it. Can't do it. Yeah. And then my managers just said, look, before we all say goodbye, we don't want anything to do with this. What would be the conditions you might want to do? And I thought this was him coming up with an idea, but I think that this is the same person who wrote that text. He's a sly little guy that's coming in here and saying, what does it take? I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I was hooked. And then we got it. I said, okay, let me talk to this guy. And so I think that's why now in December, in the middle of everything else, I wanted to circle back with you, because it was two people meeting each other through content and what exact take that was. And man, we had some tough, it was off the table, on the table.
I want to talk about that a little bit, because we connected over the content, but you and I went toe to toe like a couple times. Let's talk about the time where you had a vision. We landed on the vision together, right? We added the charitable component to it. And then I had to kind of do my job and kind of tighten your words and make it fit a certain kind of rigor. And you were like, no fucking way, Rob. Talk a little bit about that. And I was so happy that you did stand your ground there, because ultimately what came out was a truly authentic piece that you believed in. But maybe let's talk about that, the time when you popped me in the keister.
Well, I was not in a frame. My normal affable self was at a low level, because I was so friggin' tired working. And then to imagine coming in and doing this thing on a weekend and having to travel to Halifax in order to shoot it and have everybody come. I just thought this has got to be real. It's got to be real. And there we were at the 4th of July. Now think back, the message was, hey, it's the 4th of July. We're all beat this COVID-19 thing. Let's have a party.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad that didn't go out. That would have been, we would have had our pants down. But because just as we were starting to talk about it, India and Brazil, the numbers were surging. And look, they're still surging, and this message of this thing had to be not just of this moment of this year, but it had to be real about what it is to really kind of connect to the idea of Independence Day, which is we're no longer just one country. We are part of a global effort. And we have to let's welcome. And when we came on that phrase, let's welcome everybody to the party, is still the thing that I thought resonated in watching it again. And I think that thing is I think there was a lot of politics involved in it, which I don't know how often this happens for you, but for me, I was seeing every cut that was made in a I saw its political context, which is, hey, we don't want to make, we don't want to, actually, we're not even sure about international people. Let's just have it be a party that we got to pull together and, not worry about. And the whole point was international thing. And so, I could feel that there was just a lot of sensitivities and political correctness that was going to get involved. But I think when you, and every time, I just listening to, Gary and the conversation with George up about, media guys talk at a different speed than I speak.
You're giving us extra time, Bill. It's all good.
Listen to that conversation and went, holy jeez, these guys are like rat-a-tat. We're machine guns. Just, how do you get victory? Blah, 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 blah. And my brain doesn't process that way, So I found in our talking, we had to be real with each other. If we felt there was bullshit coming in, or anybody was trying to slip you in some direction without you quite knowing what was going on, we had to say, no, what's going on here? And I love that you always would say, reset, let's reset. And what can we say? And we're basically, I had you over the barrel because I knew there wasn't another Bill Pullman that was going to come in and take the job.
And don't think they didn't ask. At one point, they were like, can someone else do this? I'm like, no, of course they can. It's got to be Bill. Listen, I've often said, like, good work, it doesn't just happen. It's hard work, right? And I think the partnership that you and I had, the creative conviction we had, the back and forth we had, the vigilance that was required, right? Had one of us taken our eye off the ball, if anyone for that matter had taken their eye off the ball, the director, the editors, it wouldn't have landed the way it landed, because it landed the way we both wanted it to land. And that's what was so important for me, and I know for you. And I think that was really the glue that sent it on its way. I
I
read
don't know how you have the Constitution, though. I mean, Rob, you had me on one end, and then you had the client, Budweiser, which I didn't really even know very much about that end of it. But I'm sure you were getting all kinds of.
Sometimes we were on the phone at the same time. It was just like one, no. It was great though. But I so value our partnership on this and what we created. And it was wonderful. And there were a couple of things on social media that stood out. And I know we wanted global, and Biden got involved, and it got really, really big. But there was a tweet that really resonated, and I thought was amazing. It just said, "I can't believe it took a beer and Bill Pullman to bring this country together again, but it looks like that's exactly what they did." And I just thought that was just such a great summation of what we put out there. If we have a second, I think there was a really, really wonderful anecdote. We talked about throwback, but this is like a throwback to a throwback, because we went back to the speech for July 4th. But obviously 25 years ago, you delivered that absolutely world famous epic speech that I know that you were involved in making that as well, right? But there was a fellow on set, right? You told me a story about, I think it was the DP who saw Independence Day, was inspired, and then was actually on our set. There was something absolutely magical. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, it was. I've been working for 4 years on this, the center, and the director of photography, Radium Chung. He had just come to this country, America, when Independence Day was coming out, and he was in here for, I think it was 3 weeks, and he was just meeting new people, and he was just barely here, just got here, had nothing. And they said, let's go out to see this movie, Independence Day. And he wanted so badly to go with them all, but he didn't have the money for the ticket. He just said, I just can't, made up an excuse. And so after we finished shooting on that Saturday, where we had to take everybody from our from shooting and production in an hour and a half south of there, we had to bring them on Saturday. We only had so much time, and that's a whole nother story, which is barely a lot of urgency, but we made it, and we made it through. And then he came up and he said to me in my trailer, he said, Bill, I just want you to know this story, which he said, and for me now to be able to come back full circle and be the DP on set for this commercial, which is an attempt to bring everybody together, our kind of a revision of it all, was so meaningful to him.
Absolutely fantastic collateral. Bill, I thank you so much. Obviously, we will stay in touch into the future. I love our partnership, and I hope that honestly we can do something again in the future, and kind of pretty sure we're gonna.
Great. Same here.
Great seeing you, Bill, and happy holidays. And again, congratulations on the new grandson.
Thanks so much, Rob.
That was amazing. Thanks to you both. Next up, we welcome Ryan Harwood. He's the CEO of our Gallery Media Group, and he's going to be the host for the rest of the show. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
We are good. Super fired up to have Marissa Jarratt on next. She's the SVP and CMO for 7-Eleven. There she is.
Hey, guys.
She's definitely mixing it up with her team, so I'm excited to hear a little bit more. Take it away, you guys.
Awesome.
Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Marissa. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. It's going to be a tough act to follow Mr. President there, right?
I know.
Lone Star in the house. I love it. All right. We have the last marketing for the now of the year here. So I am pumped up to run through this with you. As we say goodbye to 2021 and hello to 2022, I'm super curious, as the CMO of 7-Eleven, what have been your biggest challenges and victories over the last year?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest challenges are keeping up with the changing demands and behaviors of the consumer. Full stop. And we saw that hit a next level last year when COVID came on, and it's just continued, honestly, over the course of the past 20 months. And so that really keeps me as a marketer on my toes, my entire team, and frankly, our whole company. And we've turned that into a victory, I would tell you. Similar actually to what George talked about at Tinder. We've gotten really clear on our brand purpose and understanding what is the role that the 7-Eleven brand plays in the lives of our customers. And then how do we really dial into that every single day with every single action that we take? So we've spent some time doing brand purpose work. We actually call our brand purpose Activate Awesome. And it serves as sort of a clarion call for everything that we do in marketing and really across the organization. How are we activating awesome in our customers and our associates and our franchisees and our communities, and making sure that we do right by that.
That's awesome. As a chief marketing officer, for a lot of folks that are listening that aspire to be CMOs in their careers, I'm curious, what do you think are your most important skills that have gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a common question. And I would tell you, I didn't start my career in marketing. I started off in finance, and I worked in the corporate finance arena for several years and realized, yes, I can do this, but it's not really what motivates me. And so I switched careers and moved into marketing. And I'm actually very thankful that I had that experience in finance, because I think that's the secret to a strong marketer, is one who can operate with a right and a left brain approach, one who understands the business and how to drive the business and how to measure the impact of marketing on the business, and one who can think creatively and understand the consumer and really act in an empathetic way and kind of unlock those solutions that aren't necessarily rational to the rational side of the brain. So I think that's the secret for marketing and for marketers, is to have both of those skill sets and be able to use them together.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I always pigeonholed myself early in my career as a business person, because I started in finance too. I worked there for a long time, and as each year has passed, I find myself to be more and more of a creative and less on the business side, enjoying what I do for a living. So it's fascinating. We have a similar background from that perspective. Yeah. I'm curious, when you're hiring, and there's a lot of folks on the call that want to be hired, that want to get jobs at all these different organizations, what makes an outstanding employee at your organization specifically? What do you look for when you're hiring?
Yeah. I mean, I always look for intellectual curiosity and passion for the brand, right? I want to work with someone who's curious about the world and about our consumer and about the brand and about culture and about how we can be a bigger part of that, right? So intellectual curiosity, passion for the brand is first. The ability for someone to operate vertically and horizontally is critical. In today's day and age, we're looking for subject matter experts across the realm of marketing, whether that's insights or advertising and media, data analytics, but that's not enough. You also have to have a systems mindset and understand kind of how the whole business works and what your role contributes to. So that kind of vertical, horizontal mindset. And then lastly, I would say, just this drive for results and a bias for action. We're a retailer, we move fast. So you got to be comfortable with that kind of pace and really enjoy it and thrive in it. So those are the three areas we look for.
Totally. If you were leading a keynote at your alma mater, what would you want to leave behind? What would you want to teach or share those aspiring marketing students? What's the message?
Yeah. I love what George said about getting comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. I think that's right on. I think in addition to that, I would encourage students today to get comfortable taking risks. You can't plan every single thing out. And so sometimes when unexpected opportunities, even though they may not look like an opportunity, present themselves to you, how do you lean in and really take every opportunity as a way to grow and learn and make an impact? And over time, you'll find that really helps build your career, helps build you as a person, as a parent, mother, sister, daughter, friend, et cetera. And I think, Ryan, probably our shared experience in finance is a good example of that. It's we could just as easily say that was an epic fail working in finance for a couple of years, but actually it was a wonderful thing that happened, right? So how do you lean in and take risks in the spirit of having a growth mindset?
Love that. I know this goes so quickly. It goes way too quickly. So I'm going to skip right to the rapid fire questions here.
I'm ready.
Special speed round. So let's get to know Marissa. Tell me, 80s or 90s music?
80s all the way.
Salty or sweet?
Both, all the way.
Beach or mountains?
Mountain.
Are you a morning or night person?
Morning.
Europe or Asia vacation?
both all the way.
And of course, because of 7-Eleven, cherry or blue raspberry Slurpee. What are you going for?
I can't choose. That's like
You
picking
got
your favorite kid.
You have to
Gosh,
choose.
depends on the day and the time of day, probably.
Thank you so much for joining us, Marissa. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Happy holidays. See ya.
That was so good. We've never had anyone say both to so much. It says so
No,
much about you,
threw me
Marissa.
off.
Yeah, right. Why choose? I love it. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining us.
Happy
Marissa.
holidays. See you guys.
Ryan, next up, we've got Anisha Raghavan, and she's the CMO of Number 7 Beauty Company North America for Walgreens Boots Alliance. And she oversees the whole portfolio of beauty brands. But one thing you may not know about her is her life's motto, which is "A smile is understood in any language." Just love that.
I like that too.
That's in my high school yearbook.
I love that. And you have such a lovely smile. I understand why you say that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Anisha, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to have you on. We've obviously known each other a very long time, and I've loved watching your career over the years and all you've accomplished. So I am psyched to jump in here and learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, same. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me, what were your biggest challenges and victories in 2021 over the last year?
Yeah, biggest victory was helping 10,000 women get back to the workforce. So one of my biggest brands is Number 7. It was founded in the 1930s in England by a woman who was all about female empowerment. So she was in a time where brands were putting women in ads in skirts as housewives, she was portraying them in pants as working women, and she employed women and educated them. She did all these things for female empowerment. So it's been in our DNA for 86 years. And towards the end of 2020, we were watching the labor stats, and women were leaving the workforce at 4 times the rate of men. It was, 5 million women at that point had left the workforce in 2020. And so as a brand that really, our purpose is all about female empowerment, we wanted to do something about that. So we launched at the beginning of 2020 a platform called Unstoppable Together, our brand purpose platform in the US for the first time. And we supported women in their journey back to work. So we did things like launching the biggest job summit of its kind. We had resources for women to get back, small group coaching and things like that. And so it was an incredible victory on so many levels. I mean, just being able to impact that many women's lives was incredible. But then also from a team standpoint, like we just really came together, and it's a source of pride. We built something in 10 weeks, soup to nuts, and just built the plane while we were flying it. And for the brand, we had our second largest volume of Google searches in our brand history. And then for me personally, I am incredibly passionate about gender equality, and to be able to live out that passion at work was incredible. So that was the biggest victory. And then the biggest challenge was the Great Resignation. So, everyone in corporate America is facing this in the last 6-7 months. The turnover rates have been their all-time high in the last 10 years, and my team didn't escape from that. So, I have a large team, and within those teams, some of those teams were facing as much as 50% attrition at any given point. And so you can imagine like resource planning, recruiting strategies, like reward incentives, you have to rethink everything. But also, while you're keeping the business going, you have to support the team on the ground. And so I had people leaving for all kinds of reasons. Some of them were relocating, reassessing their lives. Some of them were burnt out. But I also had people who had lost a parent to COVID, or, relative to suicide, like really incredibly difficult life circumstances. And supporting your team through those things up until the point where they decide to leave is an incredible challenge. And you have to put people first, at that point, and health first. But also on the other end of the spectrum, the people who didn't leave, now there's all these holes in the team. How do you support them? Because it's natural tendency in corporate America, especially if there's an overachiever, to pile on more work. But just because someone carries the load well does not mean it's not heavy, So you've got to, again, keep the business going while protecting those team members. So that was probably the biggest challenge.
Wow. That must have been super challenging to do.
Yeah.
And tell me, as someone that's part of the C-suite team, how do you think we can all be better leaders going into 2022? What have we learned, and how can we all be better?
Yeah, I love this question. And if you look at leadership not as a title, but as an honor that's, that is bestowed upon us by the people willing to follow us, then I think leadership comes down to trust and self-awareness. And I had this incredible professor in business school, Frances Fry, who would talk about the concept of leadership based on trust. And she always said that trust is based on three things. Based on authenticity. So if you're my leader, do I believe that the person I'm seeing is really who you are? It's based on logic. So can I trust your decisions and the logic behind them? And it's based on empathy. Do I believe that you're in it for me as much as for yourself? And what she said was, when you're stressed out, one of those things will wobble. Everybody has a wobble. And so you have to be self-aware of what that wobble is in order to get the right cane for those moments where you're stressed. And so I just thought that was incredibly brilliant. And I've always thought about what's my wobble and how do I fix that, And I think if everybody knew their wobble when they're stressed out, they'd be better leaders.
Interesting. Wobble. I'm going to take that. I like it. I like
For a
it.
while. Yeah.
And as a marketer, how do you think we can continue to dial the impact we're making up as marketers, just in general?
Yeah. So, there's so much going on in consumers' lives right now, in all of our lives at a macro level. Obviously, the last 2 years has been, very different and very stressful in lots of different ways. And so it's one of the original marketing mantras that you have to meet a consumer inside their lives and make it valuable and easy for them. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So I'll give a few examples. I saw a brand recently doing audio advertising, and they use voice activation to offer samples. So a consumer, on Spotify listening to something, this ad comes on, but they can use Alexa to say, hey, I want a sample, and it shows up at their door, right? Super easy, super valuable. Another example is we're working on our next big innovation. I can't tell you what it is, but what I can tell you is we are co-creating it with 1,000 women. And so those 1,000 women from beginning to end have been really helping shape everything. So the concept of the innovation, the packaging, the product formulas, now the advertising. And so we are meticulously designing it for their lives. And then a third example, I'm sure you saw, like the whole world, the Peloton ad this weekend, right? Like incredible. Talk about like agility in marketing in order to fit into what's happening in a consumer's life, right? In a cultural moment. And that team had to respond to what was going on Sex and the City, right? Their livelihood depended on it. And they built that out in 48 hours and used this concept I love of fast advertising, which I know, you guys run an incredible company, well, the ability to create really great advertising really fast and marry that with tech-driven media buying. Like that kind of agility is the future and is absolutely necessary to making a bigger impact in marketing.
Totally. The two things I heard you say there was eliminate friction from the process with that Spotify example. The more you can eliminate friction, closer you are to the consumer, the more likely you convert. But also speed matters, right? Speed of ideation, speed of execution.
If you want to be part of the important conversations in culture, like that's rule number one. Speed has to be there.
Yep, because relevance is consideration is driven by relevance, and in order to be relevant, you need speed. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to throw an interesting one at you here. Describe yourself in one word.
Describe myself in one word.
One word.
I'd say genuine. Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna make up a word. Optorealist. I tell my boss this all the time. I am optimistic and realistic at the same time. So that combination of being able to dream big, but also know reality, I think is one of my sweet spots.
We call that, because that is a big quality we look for. We call that practical optimism in the company here.
I think that's 2 words though, so I had to make up a word.
You're right. All right, we're jumping to the speed rounds. Let's get to know Anisha, okay? All right, tell me, salty or sweet?
Salty.
Europe or Asia vacation?
Oh, I love both. Asia.
Italian or sushi?
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, but I'll still pick sushi. Them avocado rolls. I love them.
Friends or Seinfeld?
Friends.
Almond milk or oat milk?
Almond.
Are you a morning or night person?
Total night owl.
Me too. Beach or mountains?
Both equally.
Love it. Anisha, thank you so much for joining us. Goes way too quick. I look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Same. Thanks so much, Ryan. Take care. Happy holidays.
You too.
That was so good. I think we're going to have to include a "What's your wobble" going forward. Let's throw that in there, Ryan. Such
We
a
gotta
big
sing a song. What's your
Francis
wobble? What's
Fry
your wobble?
fan.
What's your
Thanks for reminding. That was really, really good. Love it. Love it. All right. We got one more, Ryan. Mandy Rossi. She's the VP and President of Marketing for Kroger. And boy, does she run everything there. It's a $120 billion business that spans 22 retail banners and more than 2,800 physical stores and a huge e-commerce platform. I'll let you guys take it from here.
I love it. Hi.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Great.
I am so excited to have Mandy on. I've had the privilege of working closely with Mandy over the last year during quarantine and COVID, et cetera. So I have a lot of context and I'm thrilled that you're on here. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thanks for the partnership. It's been fabulous working with you guys.
Thank you. So let's talk, as we say goodbye to 21 and we head into 22, what have we learned? Like, how can we look back and be smarter as we move forward? And what were some of the challenges and victories that you've experienced?
Yeah, well, so first on learning, maybe start there.
Yeah.
I think in a positive way on 21, one thing I feel like I've learned is people are endlessly resilient and creative and will find a way. Maybe the other learning is there's no solid ground anymore anywhere. So even when you think maybe it's going to shape up this way, the curveballs will keep coming. But I will say, even looking at our industry, looking at my team, looking at the business, even as curveballs keep coming, and a year ago we could never have imagined we would still be in this pandemic in the way we are, but people just keep finding a way. And as the customer moves, which is also happening endlessly, it's been really inspiring to see how creativity continues to show up to find new ways to help people get done whatever it is they're trying to do. In terms of victories, I mean, we have the luxury of being in the food space, which is super fun and is very integrated into people's day in, day out lives. And we're big, right? So we serve 60 million customers a year. And it's been really kind of a special place to be in the context of everything else that's going around, because food is so central to culture. And when you're in a pandemic, obviously the way people were eating and cooking and shopping evolved really rapidly and then continued to evolve. And then you would see like, oh, a little shift happens here, and then maybe we go back in regard to like food at home and cooking, which at one point was fun. Then it became a grind. And I think for my team, one thing I'm most proud of is the way we've been able to help people really eat the way they want to eat through this. So our brand promise is to make the best of food accessible to all. Our campaign is fresh for everyone. And that accessibility has been sort of a thread throughout the pandemic. And I think in 21, we found some fun ways and some pretty meaningful ways, whether that's our e-commerce business has scaled rapidly, like most businesses who have e-commerce. But things like we opened in Florida for the first time. That's a market we've never served. And we do it with warehouses that are run by robots, with then wonderful delivery drivers who bring you your groceries in a refrigerated truck. We've never done that before. And we figured it out and launched the brand in a different way, where we're only a pure play e-commerce retailer. So we're continuing to find those new and different ways to see where is the customer going, and then how do we find not just a marketing message, but really pull the brand through to the experience to create meaningful solutions, for whatever their need is, whether it's an enduring need or something that's maybe a need that's showing up in a way it hasn't before.
Totally. You're in such a fascinating industry because there's so much traditional stuff that goes on, yet you need to move into the new. So kind of like being as a food retailer, how do you hold on to the old, like things like grocery coupons, but also move into the new, like the e-com you're talking about and online shopping? How do you think about that?
Yeah, that I will say that is one of the challenges we sometimes face, is we are living a little bit of a foot in historically what's worked and then a foot in modern marketing and where we want to go. We are blessed with a tremendous data asset, which helps us in the sense of modernizing and personalization and media and all of that. But we also still have 2,800 stores with cardboard signs all over them, right? I would say the way we start, one, always starting with the customer, and even looking at the old stuff and making sure we're not on autopilot. Like, are we just doing that because we've always done it? Like, should we be doing as many signs as we are? Should we be doing coupons in the way that we've done them? And sometimes the answer is like, actually, yeah, the customer still really likes that. There's high engagement with it. It's creating value for them. So it makes sense to keep doing. Sometimes though, it's like, well, actually, maybe that isn't as relevant as it used to be. And so we need to then look at things in a new way, whether it's reimagining the way that job gets done, or it's just like people aren't engaging, let's say, with media in that way. So we need to move to something new. I will say measurement is the other thing. We, again, are blessed with a lot of closed loop measurement because we have a good first party data asset and we have good media partners as well. But sometimes to make sure we have the measurement of what's going on so we know we're investing in the right places, we're investing where the customer is, but then trying to carve off intentionally innovation where it's like, we don't know exactly how this is going to work, but we're just going to go do it because we've never done it before. So we have no data to know. And I think that's the piece where we're continuing to look for talent and push ourselves to be brave in trying the new, even if we have no idea how it's going to work out. And the good news, again, with the scale we have is we might not do that in every single market all the time, or we might not do it with every audience, but how can we take a piece of something, roll up our sleeves and start learning on it, and then once we figure it out, be ready to go at a bigger scale.
Yeah. We have a comment in the chat from someone named Alex Rivas. Shout out to him for saying NFT coupons. That's how you go on the old and the new at the same time.
All right, we're taking that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. You mentioned a big challenge before for you is finding e-com talent. Like, why is this such an important focus for Kroger moving into 22?
So our business strategy is win with fresh and accelerate with digital. For us to meet the growth goals that we have with where the customer is going, e-commerce is the future. And it's not just the future, it is today. Our e-commerce business basically doubled nearly overnight in the pandemic. And we're working to double that again in the next 18 months or so. And if we look at it, it allows us to do a few things, right? So we can serve people more completely in the markets we're already in. It also allows us to get into new markets, which, especially for how established we are, new market growth is a critical pillar to us growing. The talent piece is key because it is different. And I will say the challenge we find, maybe even different than if we were like a small e-com player, is we need people who can think, and actually you guys were chatting about this earlier, horizontally. So be able to see, okay, e-commerce fits here, but really a customer is engaging with us outside of, let's say, Florida, where we're only e-com. They're engaging with us in a multi-dimensional way where today they may pop in the store, tomorrow they may place a pickup order, maybe need it delivered tonight. And so we really need talent that is not only really good at some of the blocking and tackling of performance marketing and e-commerce, how maybe traditionally we sometimes think of it, but who can also think about a bigger, like we're bringing the brand to life across all of these touch points. E-commerce plays a critical role, but it's not the only role, and the pieces need to connect. And it's a little bit of a unicorn to find. Obviously everybody's looking for e-commerce talent. So there is just a war for e-commerce talent, but then also to find e-commerce people who can really navigate with the breadth and scale that is, has been particularly a challenge. So if you are all out there listening, please hit me up. We are definitely looking for folks with those skill sets.
There you go. A recruiting call out. Hit up Mandy. I'm curious, as a chief marketing officer, what do you think are your most important skills that got you to where you are today and that allow you to be good at your job?
Probably a few basic things. So I did not even start my career in marketing. I started in analytics and consumer strategy. And I think what has actually served me well is that having that mindset of really being curious about people and systems and culture and like, why is this happening and where might it go? What could the scenarios in the future be? Has helped me as I've come into more of a marketing leadership role to have that grounding. And frankly, it is very helpful in today's world to be pretty analytically savvy as a marketing leader, because that melding of analytics and creativity is so critical. I would also say just leading a team. And I was blessed. I started my career at Procter & Gamble. I had so many wonderful people who built into me and taught me about how do you lead a team? How do you set a strategy? And I think that has helped me a lot to understand, one, how to create clarity, but then know when to get out of the way and let the team do what they do. And I think that's a big piece of my job now, is listening more than talking, especially as we're talking about things that might be new mediums or new technologies. Almost 100% of the time, there is someone on my team who knows it better than I do at the start.
Right.
And my job is to, frankly, like, flow resources to the right place, see where there's an opportunity, place a bet on something where someone is passionate about it, and then encourage the talent so that they grow. So I would say those are probably some, and then there's just the role we need to do in the company of advocating for the consumer, advocating for the role of the brand, and guiding the overarching sort of choices as we look at the product, which in our case could be store experiences, site experiences, things like that.
Love it. And how are you moving in general, Kroger, to a more agile marketing approach? I remember you mentioned in 2020 it was just about keeping your head above water, and then in 2021 you've been strategizing. Like, what's for 2022? How are you going to try to move to that more agile marketing approach?
Yeah, so a few things. So we are changing sort of our annual operating model. So we work in OKRs for those who are familiar with that. I'm very excited to move to that. We also talk about agile with a capital A, because I think sometimes people use agile like, we're going to be agile, as in like, we're not going to make a decision. We're just going to constantly change and react, which is the opposite of what agile should be. So we've really focused on setting very clear North Stars on like 4 or 5 things that are the North Stars for the whole organization. And then through an annual planning process, and then quarterly and even monthly and weekly check-ins to calibrate along the way, we empower the teams to figure out how they get there. And I think that's the piece that will allow us to be more agile, is frankly pushing that accountability down, so that we don't have, like, we're a big corporation. You can easily get bogged down on like layers and layers of approvals and input, and everybody senior wants to see everything. We are really trying to say, like, our job as senior leaders is to set the high level roadmap. And then we let the team, we say, we're going to go from here to there, then let them chart the course, because there are probably many different ways we could travel to do it. And then obviously continuing to learn and evolve along the way. But it's a culture change. So I think we're going to learn our way through our ability to move faster. Retail does move fast. So I think that helps us, maybe relative to some brands, just inherently it moves fast. We look at our sales every day, things like that. But it is also culturally hard when we talk about speed 1 and speed 2, which I stole from my friend Jason Heller, who's helping us on some of this agile transformation. We've operated on speed 1 as brand builders a lot. Like, I want to go think about the brief, and then we're going to brief the agency. Then we're going to look at a bunch of different options of how we do it. We now need to have a lot of our team running in what we call speed 2, which is like, okay, today, what are we going to do? What are the 10 pieces of content that need to go out? Okay, what worked? What didn't work? Let the machine programmatically adjust. And I think that's the muscle we're trying to pull in from our e-commerce and performance marketing teams, and bring that into our brand marketing teams as well, and vice versa, to kind of start to build that muscle across the whole.
Yeah. We call it the and mentality instead of the or mentality, meaning like, let's create both instead of nitpicking subjectively on why this should be changed, red button instead of blue button with a bunch of executives, et cetera. The subjectivity needs to be removed from it quite a bit in order to have that speed and volume that you're talking about right now, which I think makes a lot of sense. But let's wrap this up with a bunch of speed round questions. Let's get to know Mandy. Okay, pizza or pasta?
Oh, so I am allergic to gluten. So like neither one is great gluten-free, I'm going to say. Like, I'm going to go to like the prior choice, and I'll take sushi.
I love it. I love it. Almond milk or oat milk?
Oat milk.
80s or 90s music?
90s.
Friends or Seinfeld?
Friends.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, depends on the time of year, but generally beach.
Morning person or night person?
Morning all the way.
And last one, European vacation or Asia vacation?
European vacation.
Okay, there we go. Mandy, such a pleasure seeing you. Thank you for joining us. And that
Thank
wraps
you.
the last
Thank
marketing.
you.
That's a wrap. Thanks to you both for taking us home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. That was fantastic. I love those speed. We gotta throw it back to you one of these times. That's what we're gonna do in the next one. Like January or February, guys. Let's figure out our questions. We're gonna. I want the audience to send me some questions that you want us to ask Ryan. That's the homework.
You gotta give me more speed round questions. I want them.
Right, before our next episode. All right. So
Happy holidays, everybody.
Take it easy. Well, so our next episode is January 20th from noon to 1. We're going to be rocking out on all things TikTok. So make sure to join us. We're going to have influencers, celebrities, brands, all kinds of folks. But until then, happy holidays. We've so enjoyed having you, and we'll hope to see you soon. Take care.